There was a loud explosion and I was blown through the air about 15 feet.
Then the lights went out and I saw people falling over all over the place, being blown all over the place.
Go back! There is another bomb. Go back!
Well, I was with the Prime Minister at the time and the explosion happened just as we were packing up.
My husband was in bed and all the windows went and the bathroom was extremely badly damaged.
Your own room?
Yes, yes.
I've had a thump. I want to see that bathroom.
Yes.
Into a ringer.
Nothing to say.
If it was the IRA, have you any thoughts about it?
We're used to it in Northern Ireland, and we just simply hope that the people in Great Britain realise that this is what we have to suffer week by week from terrorists.
You hear about these atrocities. You don't expect them to happen to you.
Do you regard this as an assassination attempt on the Prime Minister?
No, I would doubt it. I would doubt whether it's particularly aimed at us or her.
The conference will go on. The conference, all right, John, the conference will go on as usual.
Is it realistic, though, to carry on the conference?
Well, I think that if you believe in democracy, the one thing you can't put up with are those who would try to use violence to stop democracy.
Young Conservatives ball, only they're a bit older, younger than the other ones. It's very important that we do very well from this ball this evening. It must have been in very sharp contrast for those of the gentlemen of the press who, unfortunately for them, have had to attend all the other party conferences as well.
Three cheers to Mrs. T. Hip hip. Hip hip. Hip hip.
Yes, you're going the right way, both.
We're going. No, shoot over my right shoulder. I don't like it, it's very loud.
You might be getting squat.
Somebody cover the sign up.
It's going out if you get one from the side.
And man with no defense, I was mine was my own.
Put the light on, quick. Behind you. It's behind you.
Right. Take it on.
It's okay, we know it's all right, we have already listened.
I'm okay. No.
Could you possibly describe to me, as far as you can remember, what happened?
Well, I was leaving and I was going out the foyer and there was a loud explosion and I was blown through the air about 15 feet.
Do you have any idea where the explosion came from?
No, I mean, the force of the blast blew me backwards and I was showered with plaster.
Did you hear or see anything to suggest anybody was hurt?
Not on the ground floor. I mean, I was on the ground floor and apart from being showered in plaster, I was certainly the nearest to the exit at the time it happened. But if you look at the hotel, the higher floors are also damaged. So whether anyone in a bedroom has been injured, I don't know.
Do you think there was just one explosion, or were there more?
I can't really say. I was so close to the first explosion. There was a loud noise and certainly a delayed reaction before I was thrown through the air. So there may have been two, but I'm not sure.
Were there a lot of people in the foyer when the bomb went off?
No. I was the only person leaving at the time.
Fine. Thank you very much.
You go for it. Go for it, Robin.
Right, here we go. Okay?
Yes, of course.
Can you tell me what happened?
Yes, I was in the lobby about 150 feet from the front, having a drink. When I looked up and I heard a noise and I saw the glass cracking and coming towards me, and I jumped under a table. There was a second noise, this is how I see it, and the ceilings fell down. I mean, this is why I'm covered in all these lumps.
You thought there were two explosions?
I thought there were two explosions, yes.
Was there panic inside the hotel?
No. This is the amazing thing. Everybody in the lobby was very calm, and there was somebody there, I don't know who it was, who took control of the situation and said, everybody lie down, and so on, and took the whole situation in hand. And marvelous chap, whoever he was. And when we got up, the whole place was covered in a fog, dust, and we were led out to the back.
Were people in your part of the hotel injured? Did you see anybody hurt?
There were a number of ladies who were suffering from shock, but downstairs, very few people, I think, were injured down there.
Thank you.
Could you possibly tell me what you saw and what happened inside the hotel tonight?
Well, I was inside the front door, was doing my paperwork for morning teas, and it looked like somebody chucked a bomb in the front door. I was right inside the front door, and well, it's hard to describe. It just went all black, and I was the last person out of the front. If I'd been there a couple more minutes, I would have been jam-packed tight with all the rubble that blocked the whole foyer. As soon as I managed to get myself inside, I fell onto the floor. A lot of other people fell on the floor as well, and.
Look at it. Standing by the.
Can we carry on with our interview? We have the crew back.
Okay.
Could you possibly carry on describing what happened?
Anyway, I ran into the foyer, and the lights went out, and I saw people falling over all over the place, being blown all over the place, and just lying there. And next thing, the lights came on, and I sort of got up, and was completely full of smoke. I thought it might have been tear gas or something. Really, it was that bad.
Was there a lot of damage in there?
Yes, there was quite a lot of damage. Yes, there's no doubt about that. There was, no, I didn't see no blood because it was too dark. The lights went out, and when they came back on, you couldn't see nothing because there's too much dust there.
Was there one explosion, or were there more?
I think personally there was more, but all at the same time. To me, one wouldn't do all that damage, but I think it was more than one all at the same time. That's what it seemed like to me, because the front of the hotel was blown up, and part on the top floor was blown up, the middle part of it must have been all at the same time. You know.
Were there many people in the front of the hotel where you were?
Not where I was, but where I was pushed into. Yes, there was quite a few people in the bar in the foyer, but I think they were all right.
From the size of the explosion, would you say it was a sizable blast
well,
or a small one?
I think so. If people had been inside at the front door and just been there just after I'd been there, I don't think that they would have got out alive. I think that I was lucky to get out alive. I was almost killed. If just about 2 seconds I got out of that part, I was, the whole lot just caved on top, and glass fell on top of me and everything else. And that's all I can say really.
Who's likely to have been in those rooms where there's a large gaping hole? The large gaping hole in the hotel. Who's likely to have been in those rooms?
I don't think it was Margaret Thatcher, because she's down low, but I don't think it was anybody really.
Do you know if the Prime Minister was staying in the hotel tonight?
Yes, because I never saw her come in, but normally I do, but she did come in.
Do you know which floor of the hotel she was staying on?
On the first floor, I think, on the first floor.
At the front or at the back?
At the front.
Which is where the explosion was below?
Yes, almost right underneath it, yes, almost. Yeah.
Fine, thank you very much.
Fine.
Okay, yes, fine. You just let me.
Could you tell me what you saw after the explosion?
Almost immediately after the large noise, which sounded like a loud clap of thunder, 4 of us turned around, and there was no fire, no light as such, but a large cloud of smoke, and almost immediately particles of dust hit our eyes, cordite smell as well. Definitely we realised immediately there had been an explosion. It wasn't a sequence of noises, it was one large noise.
And I understand you saw a man.
That's right.
Go back! There is another bomb. Go back!
Okay.
Where?
All right. I'm going to believe it.
Sorry.
Well, in that case.
While we're waiting, can we get this last sentence? Because
It's okay, well, I can't do anything.
No, I understand. No, when you're ready.
Time enough. Okay?
No, we'll just... When you're ready, Peter, tell us.
As we turn to...
No, hang on, I'll tell you when.
Okay, sorry.
Just stop there.
Okay. Hang on till he's rolling. Could you tell me what you saw then?
Immediately after we noticed the large smoke pail, we also noticed a small tubby man come from a side street running in the opposite direction that all the other people were running.
Please, thank you very much.
Shucks, blow me down. Sorry, it was forcible that was. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Please, quick as you can.
I don't think you'll need it on the skirt again.
No, I mean for mopping up.
Either one of you go in.
Excuse me, Mr. Fowler, can you tell me what you saw, or what you heard?
Well, I
I was asleep and on the third floor, and all I heard was an enormous bang. There was what sounded like the falling of debris. There was then a pause. I don't think really many people knew at that stage, at least I didn't know what had happened. And the alarm then went off. I went out of my room and in the central well there was smoke. There wasn't fire, there was smoke. And there was a crocodile of people going down the stairs.
How far away were you from the explosion?
I don't know. I mean, looking up at it, it looks as though the explosion was above me. And so I think that it looks like more like the 5th and the 6th floor, not the 3rd.
What did you feel, Mr. Joplin?
I'm bound to say I didn't hear a bang at all. And I was woken up by 2 people shouting on the fire escape outside, and opened the window and said, "What's going on?" And somebody said, "I think there's a bomb." And so I heard the alarms bells ringing, and so I came out. But I confess there was nothing wrong in my room, which is at the back.
Have you heard whether any of your colleagues were near of the explosion?
Yes, I think some people clearly must have been very close to the explosion indeed, because it looks as though the front of the hotel has been blown out on the higher floors, and it's obviously extremely nasty.
Where was the Prime Minister staying, do you know?
Well, that I'm not too sure.
Do you know where she is at the moment?
Well, no, I don't at all, but I think the Prime Minister usually stays on one of the lower floors, which I would guess is not affected.
Thank you both very much.
Is there a Mr. Jones there, please? Mr. Jones?
I know, it's seriously injured. We haven't got a battery. Go on. We've got you through up there. No, is it up there? We've got no battery. Have you got a spare battery? Who's got them? Well, English has got them.
Why don't you just stand on a footrest and do it?
Nigel and Ganners.
Watch your head! Watch your head, Pete! Christ. Well done. That copper that's coming in dust was lucky. Yes.
Can you all move back, please, further? Much.
okay. She's fine, yes.
Right way, please. Right way.
Prime Minister, could you tell us how you are, please?
Very much. Our worry is whether there's anyone under that rubble, because I don't know whether you've seen it, but it's pretty awful.
Have you seen your other cabinet colleagues?
Yes, indeed. Geoffrey Howe is here with us, and Leon is here with us, the Home Secretary. We were all very, very fortunate. Very fortunate.
Were you asleep at the time, Prime Minister?
I'm not quite sure the chance of it. No, I was up working. The bomb went off somewhere between 2:45 and 3. I know that because I looked up when I finished something at 2:45, and I just turned to do one final paper, and then it went off. My husband was in bed, and all the windows went, and the bathroom was extremely badly.
In your own room?
In your room? Yes.
I think that's enough, Prime Minister.
We were very lucky.
Will you be sincerely sorry? Have you any
I can only say, as usual, the police are there very quickly, or immediately. They're on the scene there. We're very worried about the policemen who are on duty outside. The firemen came extremely quickly and were marked. We were very, very fortunate. We're anxiously awaiting news of other people. You hear about these atrocities, these bombs. You don't expect them to happen to you. But life must go on, as usual.
And your conference will go on.
The conference will go on. The conference, all right, John, the conference will go on, as usual.
Thank you, Prime Minister.
Thank you.
I should say.
Thank you. Right. Take it now. Thank you very much.
Oh, good. Oh, I do.
Running away, so we can.
Sure.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yes.
Tell us what you're proposing.
Well, I shall. The Prime Minister's gone. I shall stay here, and obviously keep a close eye on what is going on. Of course, it's in the hands of the police and the emergency services, and I shall, as things develop, obviously be communicating and letting you know of any further news that there is. But at the moment, it's still very much a question of the investigation of what is going on, and I shall be staying here looking after that.
Was there any advance warning at all given to anyone?
No.
Were you near the scene of the
Yes,
bomb
I was
yourself?
in the next door room to the Prime Minister, to the Foreign Secretary. The rooms were in order: the Prime Minister's room, the Foreign Secretary's room, and mine. And there we were.
And how close was the bomb?
Well, we don't know for sure, but it would appear that the bomb may have been in the foyer, but it's very early days to speculate on that, but that seems the most probable thing.
Was there just one explosion as far as you know?
Well, I don't know. That's something that's still got to be looked at.
What was the scene like inside the hotel? Could you describe that for us?
Well, there's a lot of rubble in the actual foyer, which is really quite badly damaged, and the Prime Minister's bathroom was shattered, and the Foreign Secretary's study. My own room was no damage, but of course a terrific explosion.
What information have you got on casualties generally?
Well, the information, I have not got up-to-date information on casualties. That is still being looked into, so I can't give you...
But any rough estimates at this stage?
I can't give you that. I think for that sort of information, the police no doubt will be able to tell you as time goes on, but at the moment, we don't know.
And do you know of all your cabinet colleagues, their condition? Are they all
I
sick?
don't think there's anybody, any cabinet colleague who's injured at all.
Do you have anything to say about tonight's incident at all?
It's obviously an absolute ghastly outrage of the kind that we've seen quite a number of. This is a particularly shocking one. In terms of casualties, I don't know how serious one it is, but it's obviously a ghastly act. We
don't know who is responsible.
A very tight security operation has been mounted all week. How could this have happened, in your view?
I can't answer that at this stage because I don't know what has happened, but obviously there will be the fullest inquiry into that aspect of it as well.
This was a situation in which you were personally involved. Does this strengthen your determination against these sort of incidents?
There's no question about that. The conference is going to go on. Our determination is unshaken. It's not a question of individuals. It's a question of the nation not going to be held to ransom or brought to a stop by acts of violence of this kind. And the fact that it happens to have come so close to those of us at the centre of government is certainly not going to do anything other than reinforce our resolve to be quite resolute in the face of this sort of thing.
But the conference will be going on.
Yes.
That won't possibly tell me how many people have been brought into the hospital after the explosion?
About 18 people have been brought into the hospital, none of them seriously injured at the moment.
What sort of injuries do they have?
They basically are treated by shock, and one of the patients has a fractured ankle.
Are they likely to be detained overnight?
Because of the fact that they have nowhere to sleep, some of them are going to be given beds here so they can sleep.
Are you expecting any more to be brought in the near future?
No, I'm not expecting any more to be brought in.
Fine, thank you very much.
Robin, this chap's got an arm cast. Robin, this chap here has got his arm down.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you. Could we possibly have a quick interview for RTN?
We can't certainly at the moment.
Could you just tell us what happened down there?
There's just been a device gone off, that's all.
Were you inside the hotel when it went off?
No, it was next door in another hotel.
You were in a next door hotel? Was there one explosion or were there more, as far as you know?
No idea, just one of it.
What did you see? Could you tell us?
Nothing at all, really. I was just in bed, asleep.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Taylor. What did you see or hear, Mr. Taylor?
Well, I heard a small bang, and then I heard the most massive explosion right beside our bedroom, and debris and scaffolding and things seemed to be falling in all directions.
Which floor were you on?
Oh, I was on the 5th floor, right beside where the bomb was, obviously either 5th or 6th floor, because some of the bedrooms beside us are no longer there. And the lights went off, and we went out, quickly threw on some clothes and went out into the central staircase. As you know, there's a big central staircase right up the centre of the hotel, and we couldn't get down it. It was completely full of fumes and debris and smoke. And then I recalled there was a fire escape near our bedroom, and I brought my wife and other people around to follow me, and we got down it quite easily.
Have you ever been this close to an explosion in Northern Ireland?
Well, I've had my own property blown up 3 times by the IRA, but I've never been as close to a bomb as this, certainly.
Did you see any sign of casualties in the hotel?
Oh, you couldn't see a thing. It was all fumes and smoke, but like the bedrooms beside us don't exist any longer. I'd be amazed if there aren't some serious casualties there. It's very bad.
Did you attach this at all, do you think, to the troubles in Northern Ireland?
I don't know what it is. Some people think it's to do with industrial problems here in Great Britain. Some people think it's to do with the Northern Ireland debate tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Or was to be anyway at 9 o'clock this morning. Whether it takes place or not, I don't know.
If it was the IRA, have you any thoughts about it?
Well, we're used to it in Northern Ireland, and we just simply hope that the people in Great Britain realise that this is what we have to suffer week by week from terrorists, and I hope it gives greater resolve to the British government and British people to help us defeat terrorism wherever it arises in the United Kingdom.
Okay, Jim.
The blast destroyed rooms on 3 floors of the building where the Prime Minister, her cabinet and dozens of MPs were staying. Experts believe the bomb was planted on the 5th floor. The explosion caused 3 floors to collapse. Despite the early hour, this lobby and the hotel bars had been packed with politicians, delegates and journalists. Firemen rushed into the building to search for the more seriously hurt. By this time, they knew the Prime Minister had escaped uninjured. They didn't know how many people were still trapped in their hotel rooms. As they searched dozens of corridors, there was no way of knowing if more bombs had been planted in the hotel.
You check all these rooms? What? Leave them open.
There was a constant fear that more floors weakened by the blast would collapse. A bed that was being slept in half an hour earlier in a bedroom now missing its front wall. Down in the rubble, a dramatic moment. Someone has heard faint voices from beneath the debris. There are people still alive somewhere down there. There's no time to bring in lifting gear, so a saw is produced to cut through the timber. One man is still alive. The firemen recognise him. He's Harvey Thomas, the organiser of this year's Tory party conference.
Listen, Harvey, just one question before we go. Was there anyone with you in that room?
No, nobody at all.
Nobody at all in that room? Nobody at all in that room?
Miraculously, he's not seriously hurt, despite spending more than an hour under tons of masonry. A quick wash to get the dust out of his eyes and ears, and he's taken away to hospital with the other injured. Trade Minister Norman Tebbit also left the hotel on a stretcher, suffering from shock and stomach wounds after being trapped by the explosion. He underwent surgery this morning. Alongside the lifesavers, a bomb disposal officer was making his own search for clues to the bomber's identity. The first body was brought out of the building. The Prime Minister went to Brighton Police Station to tell newsmen about her own escape. She was awake and had just completed work on her conference speech when the bomb went off.
My husband was in bed and all the windows went and the bathroom is extremely badly damaged.
Your own room?
Yes, we were very lucky. You hear about these atrocities, these bombs, you don't expect them to happen to you. But life must go on as usual.
And your conference will go on.
The conference will go on.
Thank you.
All right, John, the conference will go on as usual.
Thank you,
Right, thank you. Thank you.
But the Prime Minister's bathroom was completely destroyed, and the Foreign Secretary's sitting room, and mine was the next one along. None of us were hurt there.
Mr. Gummo, whereabouts were you when the explosion happened?
Well, I was with the Prime Minister at the time, and the explosion happened just as we were packing up.
What were you doing, and what did you hear?
Well, there was just a loud bang. It sounded like two bangs, but I wouldn't like to be too precise about that. And we were merely putting papers away, having completed the work for tomorrow. And that.
An hour after the explosion, survivors, many still in their nightclothes, were wandering outside the hotel, including a clearly dazed Chancellor Nigel Lawson.
Nothing to say. Thank you.
And an equally shaken Education Secretary, Sir Keith Joseph.
You heard the bang and...
No, sleep.
Everybody in the lobby was very calm, and there was somebody there, I don't know who it was, who took control of the situation and said, everybody lie down, and so on, and took the whole situation in hand. And marvelous chap, whoever he was. And when we got up, the whole place was covered in a fog, dust.
Throughout the early morning, there were fears that more bombs had been planted. A suspicious package was found, and there was a controlled explosion. One witness believes he may have seen the man who planted the bombs.
Immediately after we noticed the large smoke pail, we also noticed a small tubby man come from a side street running in the opposite direction that all the other people were...
9 hours after the explosion, the IRA said they carried out the attack.
right, yeah, yeah. Yes, several more. I can't tell you, darling.
Oh, I see. That's for analysis.
Go to their
All right.
All right. Very well.
On now, and I'll give you a buzz.
Stay there, right?
Can you give us any idea yet what caused the explosion?
I think could you talk to the senior police officer, please?
Can we have a word with you now?
No, they'll have
Are you able to give us any idea what caused the explosion?
No, can I ask you to go to the press liaison office and they will give you all the information that you want.
Where is that to the press?
I understand that it's with the other.
Okay, Eleanor.
Mr. Selman-Gummer, what do you think the effect on the party will be of this incident?
Well, it'll be very deep shock. I'm sure they will feel, as we felt, that we ought to carry on exactly as if it hadn't happened, except for the fact that we will begin with 2 minutes silence because we know there to be some deaths, and with a prayer which the Vicar of St. Paul's will say because we feel that that's the right way to begin a day of this kind.
Is it realistic, though, to carry on the conference?
Well, I think that if you believe in democracy, the one thing you can't put up with are those who would try to use violence to stop democracy, and we are gathered here for an important conference, and we feel that those who've been injured, I'm sure, would agree that this is what we ought to do. It would be a very odd thing to allow democracy to be deflected by this appalling situation.
Dame Pamela, what about the Northern Ireland debate? Is it sensible to carry on with that?
I don't think it makes any difference. We have absolutely no idea who's committed this outrage, and we're not actually talking about outrages, and I think that we should go ahead with it in a perfectly normal way.
But surely it will affect the mood of the conference, won't it?
Well, I think that they will continue in a responsible manner. Obviously, it will affect the conference in that there'll be a sense of deep shock and distress. But other than that, I think we'll carry on as normally, hopefully, but with a sense of great sorrow that this has had to happen.
Thank you both very much indeed. Actually, what time are you hoping to... that's all, thanks very much.
9:30. We're going across now. We're going to try to start on time.
Keep looking at my watch.
Yes, we're going to try to start now in a quarter of an hour.
Right,
Have you got Sir Russell?
Please just go there.
Just there. And the PO?
Check out your release. Let's go through that. Post over there. It's the post over there.
What's that to now?
You're going to push it back to the other tape?
Not again.
Yep.
Nigel, this one you must report very quickly. We can't even, they won't even leave us here. I can put it in the back if it's going to squash it. It's all right.
No. What a player.
Turning over.
To have a very quick word with you. How are you feeling now?
I'm fine, thank you very much indeed.
You must be very relieved.
Oh, well, obviously, yes. It was quite a thump.
Yes.
Kind of, you ought to see that bathroom.
Yes.
Been through a ringer.
Do you regard this as an assassination attempt on the Prime Minister?
Oh, I wouldn't have any opinion about that. No, I would doubt it. I would doubt whether it's particularly aimed at us or her.
Have you been in touch with any of the injured at all today?
Any of them?
Injured?
No, we've only just come back from Lewis.
Yes. So you haven't spoken to Mr. Tebbit?
Oh, no. Margaret's probably going immediately after luncheon.
Okay, tell me when you're ready.
Can we just check your name first of all? It's Michael Farrell, is it right?
Let's go back. I'll give name first of all. Michael Forrer, F-O-R-R-E-R.
Right.
Hospital Administrator,
right.
Brighton Health Authority.
Everybody okay?
Following the incident early this morning at the Grand Hotel, we have received 27 casualties at this hospital. The majority of those are not major injuries, but there are some seriously injured patients among them. We understand there are a number of people still unaccounted for, and so we are expecting further admissions. Mr. Norman Tebbit is being operated on at this moment, and we will keep you fully briefed. Mrs. Tebbit is also receiving treatment at this hospital. Mr. Alfred Parsons, the Australian High Commissioner, has also been admitted, fortunately with only minor injuries. We'll be keeping you up to date with progress reports as the day goes on.
How serious is Mrs. Tebbit?
It's too early to say to give a full report at this stage, and we will certainly keep you posted as soon as I'm able to give you further information.
Are you expecting the Prime Minister to visit the injured?
I have not been informed of that to date.
What is
the operation for Mr. Tebbit?
I can't give further information on the details of the operation as that's taking place at this very moment.
How many policemen are among the casualties?
I do not have at this moment the division between the number of police and the number of civilians involved.
But there are some
I
officers.
understand there are some officers.
How many died in the
I understand that there may be some deaths, but at the moment those are unconfirmed reports.
Are Mr. and Mrs. Tebbit together, and have they spoken to each other?
I gather they've been put... I'm not aware whether Mr. and Mrs. Tebbit have in fact spoken to each other. At the moment, surgery is in progress, and that's obviously with a view to exploring the condition a little further.
Is he in intensive care?
And he's not in intensive care at this moment. The condition has warranted surgery, and I think I'll be able to give you a better indication of his overall condition after that has occurred.
Is the surgery on his leg or his chest as well?
Mr. and Mrs. Tebbit were brought in earlier this morning, not at times not too apart, but I'm not sure of the exact times.
You believe Mr. Tebbit was brought in first, followed shortly by Mrs. Tebbit?
I'm not certain of that.
Sorry.
What is the most common of the injuries that the other people have?
Most common minor injuries, a certain amount of shock, obviously, from an incident like this.
Were some of them buried for some time?
Sorry?
Were some of them buried under the rubble for some time?
I haven't been to the site personally, but I understand that is the case.
Have there been any loss of limbs at all?
I do not know that at this time.
Have any of the less severely injured been released yet?
Not as yet, as far as I'm aware.
Is Mrs. Tebbit still in intensive care?
She is receiving treatment at the moment. I think at this time that's as far as we can go in giving statements. We're obviously very busy in the hospital.
Were you injured in the ground?
No, I wasn't.
You've been to visit some of the injured, have you?
I'm in fact just coming to do just that at the moment, yes. Hoping to see my boss officer, Norman Tebbit. I don't know exactly what the situation is at the moment, but I understand he is fairly seriously injured.
We understand that he's having an operation at the moment.
Is he? Goodness me. Right. All the reason why.
Did you hear the explosion yourself?
I did, although I was quite a long way away, actually. It was amazing.
Have you heard about any of the other injured?
Well, I've also come here to see some of my friends who, I don't know, I understand they're injured too. Particularly a close friend of mine, his wife is fairly seriously injured. Find out how they are. It's absolute tragedy.
Who's your very close friend?
It's Mrs. Taylor, actually. Mr. Taylor is a close friend of mine. His wife, I understand, has been injured. So I don't know what's happened there. I understand Mr. Wakeham, the chief whip, has just been pulled out, and he's talking, so that's okay. I hope he's here too.
Mr. Taylor, what does Mr. Taylor do?
He's the chairman of the North West Area Conservative Party.
Is the conference going to go on as normal, do you think?
I don't know. I understand there's another bomb scare at the moment, which is holding things up. I've just seen the Prime Minister go through the cordon, so I don't know. I know that she's been interviewed this morning and said that she wanted it to go ahead. But because of this other bomb scare, I think it's possibly unlikely.
Is there any indication at all who's responsible?
No, apparently no one's admitted to it yet.
Who would you suspect?
Well, we all have our suspicions. I mean, I don't think one has to be terribly bright to guess who it is, but I think it would be wrong for me to make any, premature judgments on the matter.
How was Mr. Taylor, by the way?
Mr. Taylor's okay, I understand. I hope to God he is anyway. I think it's his wife who's injured.
His first name's Edward, isn't it?
Eric.
Eric, is it? His wife's name is?
Jennifer.
You said somebody had just been pulled out. Sorry, I didn't catch.
John Wakeham, the government chief whip.
And his condition, do you have any idea?
I understand it's very bad, but he was speaking apparently. So, thank God he's alive. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Morning. How are you, sir? I think I'm all right. I'm a bit shaken, but I feel a lot better now than I did last night.
Could you describe just what happened to you?
Well, the roof started to fall in, and I was extraordinarily lucky. A door fell on me, and the rubber fell on top of the door, and that saved me from any injury whatsoever. Which floor were you on? The 6th. How long before you got out? I have no idea, but I think I was actually out fairly early. You were knocked unconscious, were you? No, I'm not. The two walls of a room disappeared, and there was the lady from next door seemed to be in my room too, and injured, but I haven't had a chance to check to see how she is now. She was much less fortunate than I was. Have you formed any impression of the condition of the other people who are injured in the hospital? No, I'm not. But just one thing I'd like to say is that it was the calmness and the efficiency with which the police got people out, and the way they were looked after in this hospital was magnificent. It was very reassuring.
What was your impression of security arrangements, sir? Were they?
No idea.
Did you have to produce passes to enter the hotel?
Yes. It was quite difficult getting in and out, and it seemed to me that there was a pretty massive security cover there. But obviously there were a lot of people around. Are you hoping to get back to the conference? Yes, if I had some clothes. Have you lost all your belongings? Have you lost all your belongings? Yes, totally. I don't say lost, but they're in the hotel somewhere.
Which floor of the hotel were you on?
The 6th.
On the 6th floor, and you were in bed at the time?
Yes.
Did you fall down to the floor?
No, I didn't.
Could you say the number of your rooms, sir? Was it
6:30.
6:30, and that was
on the front, yes, front facing the ocean.
Were you knocked unconscious at all?
No. Just buried, as I said earlier.
How long were you buried?
Not very long. I managed to get myself out. It seemed a long while.
So the door blew in and...
I don't know if it was a door or a panel. It was dark. And, I think the worst feature was there was dust around, very, very heavy dust.
Was there a lot of panic evident?
No. I think people behaved extraordinarily calmly.
Are there other visiting foreign diplomats here, as far as you're aware?
I think there are. There certainly are at the conference, but I don't know whether any of them were in the hotel.
Did you actually brought you out of the hotel?
I came out with a policeman.
What were your injuries against him? What were your injuries against him? What were your injuries against him?
Oh no, I'm just a bit shaken and shocked.
But no injuries apart from that?
No physical injuries, no. 59.
59.
Sorry.
Were you alone?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Were you alone in the room?
Yes.
We'll set anything up.
Yeah, we'll set you up for you. Okay.
Just
Well,
let him
basically,
get
I
in.
want to get him to see the state of play first.
Oh, security, aren't they?
What's this, overkill jobs?
We don't know whether the Prime Minister's coming or not. It's quite likely she will.
I think she will.
If she does come, she'll go in through that door over there. Now, could I just say, it is a totally private visit. If she makes a visit, it will be a totally private one. She's just, in fact, going to see one or two of the patients and people. And obviously, what we'd prefer you to do is not to try and question her going in, because, then hopefully she'll make a statement when she comes. I'm sure she will.
Well, yeah, that's all we want to know. Yeah, we'll stay away from her as she goes in.
So, but sort of go over there.
George, trying to make more space for TV, old boy. Yeah. I mean, Rod just wants to step forward.
Can we ask who you are? Who is she? I see. You're Mrs. Mrs. Cross. Right. Let's get away. So let's If you all move back a bit, so you'll all have a go.
Okay.
Right? Right. Move back a bit so the press can have a good...
Move them round. Clear the front of the car and get them on that side. Come on, gents, move round.
Squeeze it in.
You won't have any trouble with Mrs. Thatcher? Mrs. Thatcher?
Prime Minister. And Mr. Wakeham?
Mr. Wakeham was also sleeping, which is the best thing they could do.
You were able to talk to some of the survivors.
I talked to Mrs. Tebbit. Yes, I talked to quite a lot of the people. They were all very glad that we carried on, and of course they all have very strange stories to tell of what happened to them. Some fell 7 floors and then found themselves sitting in a basement. Those are the ones who can recall what happened. Others, of course, are much worse injured.
Yeah.
They're all very grateful for the way the hospitals looked after them. They couldn't have had better treatment. The nurses have been wonderful, and the emergency services were wonderful. But each of them will tell you, their own experiences from wherever they were in the hotel.
You talked to Mrs. Tebbit. What was her, Mrs. Tebbit. What was her story? Can you?
They were just, as you know, both of them, it took something like 4 hours to get them out, and they will just tell you what it's like to feel trapped. Something which we hope we never have to experience.
Right. Thank you very much.
And did you
What was your message? Okay.
We need you fit again.
How did they
Please
feel
do
about
everything you can to help the doctors and nurses. The doctors and nurses have been absolutely.
How did they feel about you carrying on with the conference?
Oh, they all said, so glad you carried on. Don't give in. So glad you carried on. You mustn't give in.
You must not give in.
Did you?
And you tell them?
Well, I said we had to carry on.
Come on, close enough.
By things like that. We couldn't, we couldn't be put off because people wanted to put us off.
Obviously,
Obviously, it did occur to one, ought one to, because there were so many injured. But then we came to the conclusion that the injured people were the best to say, no, you must carry on.
Well, you best withdraw a little.
These bombs were intended.
Everyone's trapped there. These bombs were intended for you and your whole cabinet.
It is a miracle that there were not even more casualties.
Back.
How full that hotel was.
Did you visit all those patients, Mrs. Thatcher? Did you speak to all of them?
Yes, I went. I didn't speak to all of them because some are asleep. Mr. Tebbit and Mr. Wakeham were asleep. I spoke to Mrs. Tebbit and to most of the others. Almost all of the others. I spoke to the policeman and to almost all of our other people who are in there. Each has their own story to tell. They are all very strange. Stranger than any fiction could be. So a number of them were asleep and then found themselves way outside their room or 6 or 7 stories down. It's unbelievable. But there was a great deal of rubble and a great deal of dust, and then a lot of water that began to pour through. And some of them managed to make their own escape. It was not a night we ever wish to see repeated, but their spirits are all gone. And they're very thankful to all the emergency services for what they did.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Harry, we're going to get killed here. Oh no. Thank you, Patrick.
Go on, stop the car. Just stand there, nice and easy. Come on.
Sorry. 1 minute. Okay, we've got to go back. Sorry.
We don't want anybody inside.
I want to be on tape.
Stand back. All right, keep in, you there.
The conference hall, business is going ahead as planned and started with the debate on Northern Ireland. Earlier, Mrs Thatcher had said life must go on as normal, and as the session began, the party chairman, Mr Gummer, reaffirmed the intention to continue with the conference. A report on this morning's events from our political correspondent, David Rose.
At 9:25 sharp this morning, Mrs Thatcher was beside the platform, exactly as scheduled, ready for the first debate of the day on Northern Ireland. One cabinet minister said the conference had to go ahead because otherwise they'd think they'd won. The audience, many of whom, like the Prime Minister, must have been up most of the night, immediately gave her a standing ovation, which won't be her last today. The Prime Minister looked concerned but cheerful. The party's chairman then addressed the conference.
Those who wish to interrupt democracy must be shown that whatever means they use, those means will in fact fail. We do, of course, know that there have been some deaths and a number of injuries. We don't know the full extent of those yet. But I think you'd agree with me that it would be an appropriate thing if we stood for a period of 2 minutes in silence and then asked the Vicar of St. Paul's to say a prayer at this time to begin this day of our conference. So may I ask you to stand.
We pray for the souls of those who have been killed. O God, the Maker and Redeemer of all mankind, grant to your servants the sure benefit of your Son's saving passion and glorious resurrection. Through Christ our Lord. Amen.
The IRA had not yet claimed responsibility when the Northern Ireland Secretary spoke.
We do not know yet who planted the bomb in the Grand Hotel. And it is not easy to look into the minds of such people. Perhaps they were moved by killing for the sake of killing, but perhaps they hoped to shake our resolve, your resolve, in carrying forward the work in which we are engaged. If so, they were deeply and totally mistaken. Our system is stronger than theirs. The democracy which we have inherited will outlive their bombs and their bullets. And this party will be debating its policies in freedom long after they and their deeds are obliterated and forgotten.
As Mrs Thatcher applauded on the platform, her husband Dennis was interviewed in the conference hall.
I'm fine, thank you very much indeed.
You must be very relieved.
Oh, well, obviously, yes. It was quite a thump.
Yes.
You ought to see our bathroom.
Yes.
Been through a ringer.
Do you regard this as an assassination attempt on the Prime Minister?
No, I wouldn't have any opinion about that. No, I would doubt it. I would doubt whether it was particularly aimed at us or her.
Normally, Mrs Thatcher would spend all the morning before her big speech working on it in her hotel. Instead, this morning, in what must be seen as a deliberate gesture of defiance, she remained highly visible on the platform for the whole Northern Ireland debate, before starting work on what must now amount to a new speech.
The length of the ovation may partly have been a gesture of defiance, but afterwards representatives of all wings of the party seemed genuinely impressed.
I think she was marvellous, especially as I was in the bombing last night, because I was in the Grand. And I think she's fantastic, because I know how tired I feel, and I don't have to give a speech. And she's been simply marvellous. And a lot of the applause was not just because they agree with her and they admire her, but because they're so glad that she's safe.
I thought it was very good. I thought it was there was more substance in it than sometimes. It wasn't the possibly what we hear, the sort of platitudes that we hear sometimes. I thought it had a lot in it. It was a very, very good speech.
What did you think of what she had to say about the miners' strike?
Well, I thought she pitched it right. I mean, we've discussed the miners a lot this week, and I believe some people have said perhaps too much. I mean, I think that the name of the miners' leader has been mentioned too often. I think she failed to do that deliberately, and I think she pitched it just right.
As I read it, she was seeking to point out that the challenge which, in particular, the miners' strike was presenting was motivated by an attack on the essential constitutional values of parliamentary democracy, which she was determined to resist.
Quite remarkable, and the emphasis placed upon the campaign now to tackle and cure unemployment is clearly one which, for most of us in the Conservative Party, indeed all of us, comes as not only very welcome, but it is the priority which we have as a government and a party got to deal with.
If anything, I think the Prime Minister's put the party back on course in identifying the major problems and saying that this is why we've got to go from here. But there's a very clear, well-spoken, well-addressed issue as far as the economics of the situation was concerned, which is the first time we've heard it from the Prime Minister for a while.
I thought that if ever I'd seen it, her character absolutely shone through with all the events of the last 24 hours. Anybody who doubted the strength and resolve couldn't have been failed to be impressed by the way in which she delivered that speech. Having said that, I thought there was another very interesting thing about it. You must have felt the real intimacy of that occasion, that in a very real sense, the events of the last 24 hours had really brought the whole party together, and whatever arguments there may have been and questions raised, different aspects of policy, people were really united. And I think it's a very important lesson, and terrorists might do well to understand it, that violence of this kind doesn't split people up. It does it both in that conference, both in the country as a whole, with the other parties, definitely a feeling of being brought together and a greater feeling of resolve, I think, to face up to the terrorists.
I thought she was absolutely magnificent. She's absolutely indomitable. She really is. She's got what it takes, by God. I'm absolutely overcome.
Can I get that agreement from yourselves as well?
We're securing copies. Oh, Preston, you must have Preston. We're securing copies. Industrial estate off Orange Road.
Just to let you know, if you don't know already, that after we've done this, Mr. Gummer is coming down here at 4 o'clock, and he'll be able to speak to you then if you want to.
If you were guest.
Within at least 24 hours, possibly.
Are we all here, John?
I'd like to meet with us this afternoon, and I think the best way is for us to invite you to ask us questions.
Could we ask about the state of the building at the present time and anything that may have been discovered in it that you can tell us about today?
From the safety angle you're talking about?
First of all, the safety angle, and then from the point of view of the investigation.
The building has been declared unsafe for a number of various reasons. It is at the present time unsafe, and I anticipate your next question, and there is no way that any members of the press are going to be allowed in there at the present time.
Are those cracks getting wider, Mr.
One at a time, please.
Is it
Oh, no,
structural
no,
or another?
no, it's structural.
How bad is the structural problem?
Well, that's for the civil engineer who's present at the moment advising us.
Is it
And
true that the cracks are getting wider?
We've obviously got to be guided by the information that he gives us.
Is it true the cracks are getting wider upstairs?
Well, I don't know. I've not yet seen the civil engineer. He's obviously a busy man. And the last thing I want to do is to interrupt his observations with a view to finding out just what's happening in relation to the cracks.
Have you found anything in there yet, sir, that's helped your inquiry?
Could I ask you a
One
bit
at a time.
about...
What?
Have you found anything in there yet that's helped your inquiry?
We found several items that have been passed over to the forensic scientists for examination.
Parts
Beyond
of the
that, I'm not prepared to say.
Parts of the bomb?
Well, I don't know until they've been examined by forensic scientists.
Mr. Rees, yourself and senior colleagues have been saying quite categorically with the type of device. Have you found any specific evidence of the sophisticated timing device which you have said was used?
We've found one or two forensic items that have been sent for examination, and until we get the result of that examination, I really can't say.
Well, how has Mr. Hucklesby, the Chief Constable, and yourself been able to say that it was a timing device of the nature which you have suggested?
I don't think they have said that. They've said that it could be, and of course the IRA have claimed responsibility for the device anyway. And Mr. Hucklesby, when pressed in relation to the manner in which delays could be introduced into bombs, gave the answers that he did.
So it was speculation on Mr. Hucklesby's part?
Mr. Hucklesby was being given information by bomb experts and by his own officers, and of course from his own observations. And his information to the various press conferences is that the device was exploded on the 6th floor, and he anticipated, in view of what he'd been told, that it was a device and that there were these days delaying devices in the manufacture of bombs.
In that respect, have other buildings in this town been searched for any particular reason because of that possibility that other devices may have been planted and not yet exploded?
No, Mr. Hucklesby, and you were present at the various press conferences, was very specific as to the type of timing device used? Have you found any specific evidence to bear out what he said?
Mr. Hucklesby referred to the watch and the clock situation in relation to the timing devices.
Yes,
and he went on to say that there were electronic devices, and he used the expression chips, that were now available to the IRA.
But, have you categorically ruled out the possibility that the bomb was planted on the night or shortly before the time of the explosion?
We can't do that until the scientists have reported back to us with the items that they are being asked to examine. We're delighted, may I say this, we're delighted with the progress that's being made, although we're awfully disappointed at the present time that the building has once again been declared unsafe.
Is it true that asbestos in the building is hampering your search?
I can't answer that. Certainly you've heard that there is a suggestion that asbestos dust is present, and I'm sure you'd all realise that in view of that suggestion we must withdraw the officers in order that that can be checked.
Mr. Rees, despite the suggestions by Commander Hucklesby that this is a new dimension in the IRA's bombing campaign, do you accept that since 1977 that the IRA have been using sophisticated long-term bombing timing mechanisms of the sort that has been suggested here?
I can't be specific on dates, but I know that Mr. Hucklesby is aware that delaying devices have been used for some time.
Could you tell us in view of the fact that you're waiting on forensic examination, is there still a possibility that this could not have been a time device?
I really can't answer that. I mean, you can see the problem yourselves. There's tons of debris that we've got to have a look at.
You have
amongst yes, we are. Amongst that debris, we hope to find further forensic items that are going to be able to allow scientists to give us the answers that we require.
So at this moment, nobody is sure whether or not it was a time device or one that was just left there minutes before.
We cannot be specific until we've had information from the forensic scientists.
Have you had any clues from the find in Dublin overnight?
I beg your pardon?
Have you had any clues from the IRA find in Dublin?
No.
Mr. Rees, you've
That
spoken
plays
to a lot of people.
No part in your investigations?
It may do at a later date, but at this current stage, no.
Mr. Rees, you've spoken to a lot of people, Mr. Rees, who you've interviewed, members of the staff of the hotel.
I'm sorry, would you start again?
Members of the staff of the hotel, quite a few potential eyewitnesses, whatever. Have you formed or have any sort of description of who may have been responsible for the planting of the bomb here?
No, we haven't. I've got a description of an individual that I will give you. The problem in relation to the description of the person that I'm going to give you is, as well as perhaps being someone that we could look at as a suspect from the point of view of where he was seen and what he did afterwards, likewise I must stress that he may just have been an onlooker and he drove away from the area at the back of the Grand Hotel. Now, if I can just give you this there was a man, and this has only recently been discovered by the investigating detectives, who was on the top floor on the south side of Cannon Place car park. Now he was wearing a dark donkey-type jacket, a white crash helmet, and a few minutes after the explosion, he rode off on a motorcycle that we think perhaps was a small 50 to 100cc bike, and that motorcycle had white leg shields.
White what?
Leg shields. He rode into Russell Square, through the gap in the southwest corner, which indicates that he rode over the pavement, and into Regency Square. Now, as I say, we would like to trace that individual, but we are mindful that he may well have been scared out of his life and been exiting from the scene as soon as he possibly could.
But may I ask you then, is that the only description of anybody then that you have at this point in time?
Yes, it is. We've discovered an awful lot of people who were in the vicinity of the Grand Hotel at about the time of the explosion. But we consider that there may well be other people that were about here. After all, Brighton's a busy place in the middle of the night. And everybody who was in the vicinity of the Grand Hotel when the explosion occurred, we would ask them to come forward in order that they can tell us whatever it is that they saw.
Is it true that...
Mr. Rees, can you just sort of clarify, to be absolutely sure, that you haven't ruled out the possibility that the bomb was planted either on the night or shortly before?
We can't rule out any possibilities. I think I can safely say that it's doubtful, extremely doubtful, as to whether a device was planted on the night. Extremely doubtful.
Mr. Rees, to put your appeal for people to come forward with information about that for television and radio, I wonder if I could ask you to give us that description again without the pauses for the scribblers to catch up. Sorry, thanks.
Okay. We just finished the back end of that question, Mr. Rees. Why are you fairly sure that it wasn't planted on the night?
From the information that's given to us by the experts that are at the scene, and from the amount of security that we had.
Well, would it be right in then assuming, if you can't say it yourself, that evidence of a timing device has been found?
No, it wouldn't be right in assuming that. We've found items... No, well, I really don't know why you should be confused. I can't identify specific items, but there are items that are being forwarded to the forensic scientists for examination. I'm not in a position at this moment in time to tell you what those items are because I don't know myself. And so we can't identify those as being part of a timing device.
Mr. Rees, with respect, I mean, we have been told that by Commander Hucklesby there's a possibility of a long-term timing device hitting under floorboards or between the two bathrooms. Now, I want to know why they think that this was a logical thing if you can't say that you say no.
I think Mr. Hucklesby was pressed, and I think from the observations that he made that we're satisfied, and you were told this yesterday, that it was a device that had been placed underneath one of the baths or adjacent to one of the baths in room 629 or 628.
Have you discovered the identity of people who were staying in room 629, 628 in the previous weeks?
Yes, we have.
Have you gone through the register?
Have you tracked right through?
Yes, we have.
Have you ruled them out yet?
What length of a period?
We've looked back over the past several weeks, and quite clearly, one of the actions in relation to the investigation by the CID team is that all these people will be seen.
Have they been seen already?
I know, they're being seen.
Yeah.
We've got 100 officers at the moment engaged on this inquiry.
And presumably you're talking about hundreds of people that you've got to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just as an example, there were 238 guests staying at the hotel on the night in question. There were probably over 1,500 people in the hotel on that evening. And in addition to that, there were 125 permanent staff employed at the hotel. Now, if we've got 100 detectives sorting through all these witnesses or prospective witnesses, then it takes an awful long time.
But obviously a prime concern must be the identity of the people who are staying in rooms 628, 629.
That's right. We've got priorities, of course, and that is one of our priorities.
How many of those how many have you been able to track down? Can you tell us?
I can't tell you that at this moment, no.
entirely sure how the ambulance moved.
Mr. Gummer? Can we ask you what you've been doing here today?
Well, I've been saying thank you to the representatives of the fire service and the police and the ambulance service, because this is the point, if you like, at which they are now moving into the next stage of dealing with the incident, and I wanted to bring the thanks of all those who were present for the work that they've done. So there are on duty at the moment a number of people who were on duty at the time, and I came to say thank you.
Has the Prime Minister asked for these gentlemen to be thanked?
Well, obviously she has done so herself, but I brought those thanks, but also the thanks of the party.
What sort of a job are they doing, as far as you can tell?
Well, I think they're doing a marvellous job. I mean, even at this moment, you've got people in there, in that very dangerous part, trying to find the various evidences of the bomb. And they can't jack up the worst floor where the ceiling has come in entirely, because that will remove the evidence. And so you've got people working in extremely dangerous conditions up there, and that's why you've got the ambulance people still here, and why you've got the fire people, of course, working together. And what's very impressive is the way that they're working together. And if you look at the this fire vehicle over there, you'll see that they're using a particularly unusual cradle, a new one, which has only recently been delivered, which enabled them to bring the stretchers down, right down to ground level, without having to pull them down on ropes, which enabled them to do it extremely slowly and softly. And part of the reason why they were able to get two of the worst injured out with such calmness. It's been very remarkable indeed. But as you can see, there's not a single piece of steelwork in that at all. It's entirely built in traditional form, and therefore they've got particular difficulties, and they dare not get rid of various bits of evidence.
How would you describe the Sussex Emergency Services in comparison with other ones?
Well, I wouldn't like to compare them with anyone else, but I do say they are very remarkable. The emergency services were here within 5 minutes of the incident taking place, and they worked very steadily, as you know, and they were faced with the most enormous difficulties, because one of the problems that happened, one of the reasons why people were saved was that they were in bed, and therefore they were on their mattresses. But that meant that in order to reach them, you sometimes had to reach them from the other side of the mattress. Well, you just think of cutting through mattresses, having cut through doors and window frames and all kinds of rubble to get there. And the fact that they were able to do so, and it's not a thing you practice for, well, you practice for other things, but not a thing you've got any experience of. And so for these emergency services, which have had no history of this kind of activity, I'm very, very impressed indeed.
Are you and
the floors, and you're working on to get the information from the tiniest traces of a bomb.
Mr. Gummer, can the stills picture people get a picture of you? And we've got to go back to London.
Yes, indeed. Where would you like? I'll come and may I do that? I'll just do this and I'll be back 1 second.
Have you spoken to Mr. Tibbet today? or anything other insurance.
Can we just...
Yeah, well, you can, you know.
Our vehicle's arriving now, so could we have some assistance?
It has to be a traffic bob. We aren't allowed out of here.
You're laughing, eh?
That's the hotel manager.
No,